Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Miola, and it's great to be here today to talk to you guys about a case study in suicide in adolescent teens. Suicide in adolescents in this case study can be identified by adolescents having increased levels of depression and lack of social support. From a public health standpoint, the problem can be defined in its mortality rate because suicide has increased in female adolescents from 0.5 deaths per 100,000 in 1999 to 1.5 deaths per 100,000 in 2014. Adolescents' exposure to risk factors regarding the social determinants of health impacting their suicidal tendencies will be explained in the social ecological model. This right here is the basic social ecological model that will be used in this case study with 5 different headings as policy, community, organizational, interpersonal, and individual. This is going to be applied to the case study and identify some factors that help and hurt the individual with their suicidal tendencies that they may have. Beginning at the individual level, protective factor against suicide is physical activity. The more active that these adolescents are, the more endorphins and hormones they'll produce, keeping them, um, just in a good mood, better than if you wouldn't exercise. It also helps with a better sleep cycle too. That way people get the rest that they need. Hindrance, however, is depression, especially in young girls, and this tends to increase the risk of suicide, whether it's for things mentioned earlier about traumatic events or mental illness that they may have. These are prime examples of major sources of depression. Moving outward to the interpersonal level, protective factor is having a close family, good friends. This decreases depression and kind of just provides a figure to confide into if there is ever doubt in someone's mind if they wanted to keep living or not. However, adolescents that don't have good friends, or if they lost a friend that was they were real close to, this can increase their chances for contemplating suicide and having suicidal tendencies if they lost a loved one. At the organizational level, another protective factor is the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. It's an organization that helps talk down individuals that are contemplating suicide and kind of just like that last line to help those that are seeking um, to leave this world. Uh, they have hotlines. They can connect people to the resources that they need to keep moving forward. However, cyberbullying on social media, such as Facebook or Twitter, kind of just bullying individuals, maybe even encouraging them to kill themselves. That is an example that would be a hindrance. At the community level, adolescents that are involved in a um, religion for self-preservation have a decreased risk of suicide. Christianity would be an example because suicide is considered a sin in that religion, and it encourages people not to do that, to keep moving forward. Hindrance are adolescents that are distant and secluded from social life and the community. They are at an increased risk for suicide. These people may feel like nobody would miss them if they're gone, um, things like that. At the policy level, community policy such as the LGBT policy creates safe spaces and connects a group of people that are kind of in the same struggle, kind of connects them together, kind of gives them kind of like a social support, and kind of punishes those who kind of bully and try to seclude people just because they're different, of their sexual orientation or maybe their race. Hindrance is maybe members of the LGBT community. They may be targeted and bullied because they're different than what is considered normal. Uh, this case study proposes 3 interventions. The first intervention being to reduce the access of firearms. This is the interpersonal level with the parents or guardians, kind of getting expert to educate them on gun safety and taking precautions to make sure that if an adolescent or teenager were to get access to a firearm, that they would not be able to use it to commit suicide. Firearms are the leading cause of suicide, and this intervention's designed is based to keep from uh, more successful suicide rates. The next intervention is to increase physical activity in adolescents that do show signs of depression. This is targeted towards the individual level, trying to change the hormone balance in the individuals, increasing their fitness, trying to increase their, improve the way that they sleep, decrease their depression. And the third intervention is to introduce a means of social support. It's to get these kids to make new acquaintances, maybe pick up a new hobby, pick up a few friends, just kind of connect them out there to social community. The first intervention will be evaluated and will be measured by if it's been successful or not, pretty much by the parents or guardians of the adolescents reporting a positive change in how they store their firearms to prevent the adolescents from using them and potentially postponing suicide because they have to find a different means. For the second one, improvement in the participants' fitness, depression levels, and sleep cycle will determine if the second one has been successful or not. For the third intervention, participation in group activities and community service, making new friendships and developing healthy hobbies, as mentioned earlier, will determine the intervention success. These interventions are mostly going to be going off of surveys, pre and post intervention, and evaluation of the changes will be measured to figure out how successful each intervention was in lowering depression and improving their mood. Potential challenges and barriers for this case study will be false reporting from either the parents or guardians of the adolescents or the adolescents themselves, giving out false information and skewing the data and giving us a false reading, if you will, on which intervention would be the most effective in changing the individual's attitudes towards suicide. Another challenge or barrier to these interventions is the willingness of the participants, and if they're willing to cooperate or not with the interventions and give them a try. Resources needed for these interventions are the participation of community members with the skills and abilities needed to be part of the suicide prevention staff. Also, a referral of adolescents from healthcare facilities who have been diagnosed with depression by a healthcare professional that have contemplated suicide need to be a part of this intervention, along with, of course, the parental consent. And lastly, another resource that would be needed is the technology that enables the suicide prevention program to collect and track progress of the adolescents over time during their intervention. If individuals familiar with firearms and gun safety can educate and inform the parents or guardians of the subjects who have been referenced, this would be one activity, whether it's a short video or in class. Personal trainers at a local gym, such as the YMCA, they can develop a exercise regimen for these individuals to partake in. And for the third intervention, social coordinators, such as a school guidance counselor, can introduce these means of social support systems and introduce them into the lives of individuals and assist in making new acquaintances. For the outputs, the first intervention is to strictly reduce the means of a lethal access to suicide. Secondly, more specifically in an exercise regimen, a jogging group will most likely be taking place 5 days a week, warming up 5-10 minutes, then jogging 30 minutes, and then cooling down 5-10 minutes. The intensity will be at 50% of the maximal heart rate reserve. And for the third intervention, the population group in this intervention will participate in volunteer services and indoor activities such as handcraft making, and this will be followed up in 2 8-year periods to determine its effectiveness to maintain those long friendships and social contact. Outcomes for the first intervention will be the suicide is either postponed or other means of suicide will be used for substitution that are less lethal. For the second intervention, the exercise intervention group that showed significant improvements in fitness, depression, decreased fearfulness, better sleep patterns. They're not feeling loneliness anymore or sadness. Outcomes for the third intervention is that female subjects experienced a 76% reduction in suicide following the 8-year social intervention program. All these interventions lead to improved health, lower levels of depression, increased social interaction, and decreased risk of suicide in adolescent females. Thank you all for your attention.